Hello, welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. It's 2017. We're on the 9th installment of this webinar series, and it's May 5th. And on this particular broadcast, what I'm going to do is focus on the idea of how experts do star travel. So at this point, we're at the 9th, gathering the 9th lecture here. And so lots of people are familiar with the concept of the flying rainbow lasagna and that concept of that time vortex that I'm always drawing, the lower, holding it in front of my face, the lower quadrant of this sculpture over here. And today I'm going to get into the particulars of why we're doing that and what this experience actually is. Because the upshoot, the basic takeaway is that we do not need to laboriously dig up a bunch of metal out of the skin of our planet, forge it into some giant kind of rocket, get together enough fuel for the rocket, put all of our food into toothpaste tubes, create skin, like a false spacesuit skin for us to protect us, and blast ourselves away from the planet. And that is how one goes into space. That is not how one actually goes into space. So now we need to examine some of these inner thought programs, the software programs, and do some healing on levels of self-acceptance, because I'm also understanding that here on Earth's surface, there's a really profound program that is running, that is part of the genetic squashing when humans went from being undomesticated wolves to being domesticated dogs. There's a lot of self-hatred that is programmed into that. And part of it is hatred of the body, that people might look at their body and hate what they perceive as their flaws. Like there are scars or stretch marks or even pores that people will plaster powder on their face so that it looks like they don't have pores on their skin. And even extending that to a sense of the chorefulness of having to eat and poop, and even chorefulness in terms of sex and procreation, that people sometimes portray having a physical body as, oh, I'm like sighing and like, oh, the biggest hardship in the world. And I'll characterize this a little bit also. I'm a walk-in, so I'm not the original inhabitant of this body. I'm not the person that actually grew this body and gestated it in the womb and took care of it for the first 27 years. So I have a slightly different trajectory. But I'll tell you, in the past 16 years, I have learned to come to a great appreciation of this body, of its complexity, of the way that it functions, of its healing capacities, of its the way that it can be nourished, and the way that it can grow athletically. So all of these things, the more that I spend time in a physical human body, the more that I am impressed with the levels of sophistication and elegance of this body. So and I hope that you notice that when I do these videos and when I speak about the human body, I always speak about our beautiful cellular structure, because there's so much programming in this world. Even the idea of that humans have bad breath and have to brush their teeth, and all of these, or that your skin is greasy, or any of these things. That is not you. That is not coming from you. That is the disgust that has been programmed into you for your own form by the mind abusers or the mind rapists that invaded this planet about 10 or 20,000 years ago. So first, understand where that's coming from, and now let's heal it. Because like I said, when I first got into this body, I didn't know how it functioned. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know what was valuable in the body. And it took me a long time to figure out nutrition and to learn about it. I learned about the microbial realm about 3 years ago when I started to learn more about gardening and the necessity of having the right microbes coating the leaves and roots of the plant. Because if you don't have the right microbes on the leaves, it gets pests. And if you don't have the right microbes at the root level, it cannot effectively eat or make use of the tiny amount of minerals that are down there. So we animals and we plants are all in partnership with the microbial realm, that those tiny one-celled organisms are necessary for our continued existence. So this goes down to now how experts do star travel. Okay, let's say you wanted to put yourself in a clank metal spaceship in a spacesuit with all of your food in toothpaste tubes and blast off out of the gravity well and go to a different planet. You understand that your skin is teeming with bacteria and fungi and yeasts, and it's inside of your pores of your skin, and it's down your alimentary tract. It lines the inside and outside of this coating the surface of your body, and that there's really not an effective way to get rid of those microbes. You're in partnership with them, and they are necessary for the health and vitality and functioning of your digestive tract. So that means that any planet that you would go to, you would infect with your earthly microbes. And that planet, if it already has life, now what we're talking about, put down my stuff here, we're talking about this conflict of who wins, like, this is my territory, you're invading, who wins. This is just a continuation of the unhealthy experiences that we had on Earth, or we have had on Earth up to this point, like, let's say, the invasion of European culture into North America. And part of that invasion was a microbial invasion. I won't go into all of the history of this, but part of what made the conquistadors successful at conquering North America, or Central America, was that they had immunity and resistance to certain diseases that the people that they were interacting with in the new world, on the new continents, did not have immunity to those diseases. And the reason that the Europeans had immunity was because of domestic animals, that they had been living in close partnership and on their farms and in their homes with animals for many hundreds and thousands of years, and that gave their bodies immunity to some of these microbes. This is like the connection between cowpox and smallpox. You're getting it, you're understanding it. So it's not just cultural dominance, it was also microbial dominance that allowed for beings from one continent to come to this continent. And what really caused so much death was not just armed conflict, it was microbes, it was germs, drinking water. And I can even refer to that old H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds movie, where what really brings down the invading Martians in the end is the tiniest little microbe. It's pathogens. So now we're getting down to this, the idea of how experts do star travel. I've spoken at great excruciating length about how the beings that emanated themselves from the source, the convergence point of this yellow sculpture, emanated themselves, but not on a bridge of love into technological containers. Now let's talk about experts and the way that experts do star travel. The experts, these are the good musicians playing my piano. These are the ones that can read the musical score of the cosmos, follow the great composer, and they were emanated on the beat, like ready, 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 now you get to be alive. So these are experts, and these are genetic virtuosos. And people ask me, so I'll tell you all about my experience too. Aurora, where are you from? Like, you are a non-terrestrial. Where's your planet? Point to it in the night sky. And I answer that it is not efficacious for me to say that I'm from a particular place. I'm from a collective of consciousness. I've also learned not to characterize it in this human society as a hive mind, because people think that equates with a fascist totalitarian state or some kind of Borg, like the Borg from Star Wars, Star Trek, where you lose your individuality. This is the antithesis of that. So I'm going to speak about individuality and coherent light, and I'll get into the whiteboard too. But please understand, my collective is, like I say, the advanced jazz band, where you have to audition to be able to get into the band, and you actually have to be able to play the right notes and read the musical score and know what is going on. And that's a prerequisite for being a part of this collective, and it's a metabolism, and it's a living vessel. So let me first get into why we are going through this refinery of consciousness, going to the whiteboard. So I draw this time vortex all the time. Where's here, get a color. The time vortex. So this what I'm highlighting right here, this is the membrane of death. Let's draw a big giant purple dot. This is the source that emanates us and also the destination. And now here we'll draw this pathway in red. So we are emanated from the source, and because of the genetic degradation and squashing, we go through all of these possible iterations, and it's coming from both sides. This is recap for anyone who's already watched all of these videos. And then finally, we get to take this central, call it the core, I call it the path of least likelihood, because if we were to look at this diagram from the top down, it would look like a bullseye. Here's the outer periphery, and that's, this area that I'm highlighting in blue, this area that I'm highlighting in blue, that's the outer periphery. Here's the central convergence point. We're looking at it from the top down. And then here are these are all the timelines. They're like arrows sticking into the target, and you are constantly spiraling in, just like an old-fashioned analog record. If this green line, this is This is the song of your life. You are like a old-fashioned record on a record player playing the song of your life. And you have to play all of those songs that are out here where I'm highlighting before you get to that central purple dot. You have to play all of those lame songs where you die, where you hit this membrane of death that's over here and you die. And the whole idea is, through going through all of this rigmarole over here, that one is refining one's consciousness. And this central core timeline is meant to represent the personality characteristics of who you really are. So I speak about this as an abstraction in the sense that this is like a map that shows where you are trying to fly through time in your life. This is also a refinement of your personality characteristics. And when you get to that central core timeline, if this is you and you are flying directly up this central passageway of the sculpture, then it means that you are playing the right notes and being the person that you were meant to be in life. And the judgment has to go out the window, because part of who you are meant to be in life might require embodying certain characteristics. Like if you are meant to be here, if you're on this pathway, if you're meant to be a dancer, and that is your highest level of who you are, but let's say out here at the periphery, you get some bacterial infection as a tiny infant and your arms and legs have to be amputated. And then you cannot be a dancer. So it's not that you're evil or bad or wrong in any way. It's that you had an experience that limited you from being able to express those core personality characteristics. That's what that path of least likelihood is all about. I hear somebody's not muted. I'm going to mute you, not because I don't love you, but just because sometimes it gives distracting feedback. So this is the whole point. When we go through that refinement process and become the truest version of ourselves, and we are going upward towards that central convergence point, that is how experts do star travel. That refinement process is what is necessary to be able to get through the tiny aperture that is at the center of the sun. So let's draw this out. I hope, because I like to talk with pictures. Let's make like stars here. Let's say like these are all various stars. And I call this the stellar network. This is just exactly like the internet, that these are not individuated beings. I'm moving a little closer here so I can draw more easily. These are not individuated beings. First of all, stars are alive. Here, I'm a star. I'm like, the sun or whatever. Stars are all alive. These are all aware consciousnesses. These are not dead, inert, stupid nuclear furnaces as science would like to portray them. These are all living and alive beings that have metabolisms, and they have trajectories through time, and they have thoughts and dreams and ideas. And the thoughts and dreams and ideas are expressed by here. Now I'm drawing little planets around them, by the life that they emit on the little planets around them. So the planets around stars, the planets are like their little projects. They're like their art projects. And the planets, the stars themselves, you're now making connecting dots, are all connected to one another. This is why I say the stellar network. The stars are all connected, just like the internet is made out of many, many connected, individuated computers or phones or servers or hard drives or apparatuses. So, and the stellar network, just like our brain, is made of individual neurons. Like here, I'm circling these in yellow. Each one of these stars could be considered an individuated neuron. All right, and now I have to talk about, now that I'm talking about neurons, I have to talk about the synaptic gap. We'll get there. I'm not jumping around, but I am doing a moderately nonlinear presentation. Synaptic gap. So in your nerves, we have, this is the end, I should do it better. This is one end of your nerve, and there's a very, very, very long part of it that then terminates. And then there is the other end of the next nerve, and then the long skinny fiber that connects, in this direction to the next. So we're, even though it is a two-way street because of the endocannabinoid system, we are envisioning that right now we're having a signal that is moving from over here in this direction. And the area over here that I'm highlighting in blue, this is known as the synaptic gap. All right. This is a place where there's nothing. That's like a canyon. And these little impulses that are flowing down your nerve have to somehow jump across that canyon in order to get to the next nerve so that they can continue to flow. And the jumping across is actually a chemical process. Like imagine these are little chemical molecules, and that's how the impulse, the idea impulse, gets to jump across. When I've been drawing this time vortex, I am drawing it so that you have this source over here. And what we're trying to do is make this connection from down here back up to the source. And that is analogous to this leap across the synaptic gap. And it is also analogous to the leap, the level of an atom. This is an atom, and this is, if I've just drawn the nucleus of the atom and highlighted that in blue, this is an electron shell, and this is another electron shell. And in order to make this leap, this is what the quantum leap is. The quantum leap, this is not just a cool catchphrase that people like to throw around. It actually has a meaning. The quantum means this area here, and it cannot be divided up into half steps. So if this little electron wants to jump to this place over here, what it has to do is get very excited. It has to gather together energy in its energetic bank account. It's called getting excited. And if it gets really, really, really excited, like here I'm drawing, this guy's getting really, really, really excited, it gets together enough money, and then it can make that jump, and then it can live at a higher state of excitation. But none of these leaps, not the quantum leap of the electron from one lower level of excitation to the next level of excitation, not the leap of consciousness of a nerve impulse across the synapse, and not this leap, which is the leap essentially of your whole life, from birth down here to the final denouement up here, which is where you reconnect with the divine. When you make this leap, when you go from down here at your birth, and you make this spiral journey all the way up here, it could take hundreds of years, or whatever, 100 years, and then you reconnect with the source, you think the thought, I am God. And that's because you are an individuated neuron. Here, I should clear out this whole thing and show you more. You are an individuated neuron. So your little, get the pen going, your little time vortex down here, where you reconnect, here I'll try to keep it consistent. Let's say this red line is you reconnecting to infinity. At the same time, you have all of these other, here, let's make this guy blue. I'm trying to change the colors. Sometimes the pen is very unrecalcitrant. I was trying to choose blue. Let's get it. Okay. Then we got this blue person down here, and they are also returning to the source. And there's another guy over here who's red, and he's also returning to the source. There we go. Now I feel like I have completion on that. Each one of these people, when they reach that moment, and that means that they have refined themselves through, just like the choose your own adventure novel of your life, that they have gone through all of the possible iterations, the combinations of thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that would lead them to being in alignment as opposed to being askew, that they are their true self. And when they reach that moment, each one of these people thinks, I am God. I am God. I am God. And each one of these people is an individuated neuron, just like the individuated stars of the stellar network that are all connected. So here I'm making, just like I drew before, those stars that are radiating outward, and the stars are all connected on the stellar network. The way that experts do star travel is to refine their consciousness to the point of being on that path of least likelihood and having that moment of realization where they think, I am God. And that is rejoining the stellar network. That when you think that thought, you are an individuated neuron that has been up until that point, like I joke, swimming around in your own private kiddie pool, in a petri dish, quarantined in isolation, not effectively connecting with the rest of the brain. So now I should draw, and forgive me, I'm not trying to make you dizzy by drawing so much, but let's say this is our little planet down here. This is Earth down here. And let's say here's the sun with the beautiful rays coming off of the sun. And then here's all of the other little suns and stars that are, I'm using perspective to make it look like they're far away by making them smaller and everything like that. So all of these stars are connected, including our own star is connected. And we can take our consciousnesses when we go from, here I'll draw the time vortex, now you get it. We go from down here and we connect to the sun, we connect to infinity. We can do this while we are still in the flesh through sun gazing. This is what I do all the time. I do it even if there's not a visible sun in the sky. I am trying to pierce through that heavy cloud layer in order to find my food. But this is what we are doing while we are in the flesh, and then we can have a transformative experience to transform what this body is. So this gets back into this. All right, what is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to, sometimes my mind is moving a lot more fast than what my mouth can say. What is the end game? The end game, so in the death cults, the earth surface religions that I do not ascribe to and that I'm trying to warn other people about, the end game is the eschaton, the end of the world. Some giant god in the sky shakes the massive etch-a-sketch, everything gets erased, everything gets unmade. That is what a lot of people think. And so they think everybody's gonna die and then we have a diamond jubilee and everything is oh so great. That is not what I propose. And that's the program that has been offered to and accepted by humanity as part of that Stockholm syndrome and part of that programming where humans are taught to hate their bodies. And the idea that at the end of time or the end of your personal life, you would be liberated from your body. You wouldn't have to eat and poop and have sex anymore. And then you'd be oh so happy and great. But I'm telling you that harvesting program, that is not freedom. That it's like being uploaded into a false virtual reality fantasy land, as opposed to being given your true wings or your true unlimited potential for moving through time and transmitting your consciousness where you wish to go. It's like being stuck in a little whirlpool or in a little eddy, as opposed to flowing with the river to the ocean and actually swimming around in the ocean and going wherever you want. So when we do this process of refinement, to become part of the mind of God, or to become part of that stellar network. And then part of it is refining our personal desires and our personal motivations. So if one is not merely motivated by the ego, like if you say, I want to fly into space so that I can be famous, that's being motivated by your ego. Or if you're like, I want to fly into space so that I can control and dominate other people where I'm going, that is being motivated by your ego. So you have to ask yourself, why do I want to fly into space? This goes back to what I was saying before. If you're born in California, why do you wish to move to New York City? You have to examine those motivations. And are those motivations the result of your time body being in alignment like this, or being askew? Are you distorted? So the whole idea is, if we're following the music that we're supposed to follow, we fly where we're supposed to fly and we go where we're supposed to go, because our minds as an individual neuron are now connected to the stellar network and we go to the right place. So I'm trying to characterize this and the stellar network as a giant body, a giant network. We're not individuals. And so characterizing my collective, my group of musicians in the advanced jazz band, we all got together. We all auditioned. We all found out that we integrated harmoniously, that this note sounds good with this note and sounds good with this note. And they all sound good together. And that we create a metabolism that supports one another so that we can go from star system to star system. So our Clank Clank Metal Spaceship, the idea is that you're taking the physical body that you grew on the physical planet, putting it in a metal skin and recreating the environment inside of the metal skin like you had on the planet, so that you can then physically move across space and go to a new place and then pop out and pollute the new place with all of your microbes and everything like that you've got inside of you. And that is not the intended way that we are supposed to transfer ideas and energy. So let me draw this network again. We've got the entire, say this is the entire universe. And when I say universe, I'm not talking about the cosmos. I'm not talking about every single possible timeline, just this particular version of this reality. And let's say here are all of these different stars. And you have to say, what motivates me? Why do I choose to come out of this star over here as opposed to jumping out of this star? Why am I motivated to do certain things as opposed to do other things? And the answer is, what's supposed to motivate us are the directives of the great composer and the great conductor. So, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit. We're not supposed to get rid of our bodies in order to make this journey. We are supposed to transform our bodies. So this is to draw a distinction between the religious programs that say, in order to go to heaven, you need to die. You need to kill and get rid of your greasy, fat, stretch mark covered physical body, and then you get to go to heaven. And let's examine that psychological paradigm. I'm just checking my time to make sure I have enough time here. That is the psychological program that is created by a God. This is not true God. This is the demiurge. That is actually an artificial intelligence type of computer system that condescends to and looks down upon organic physical life as being disgusting or vulnerable or choreful or burdensome, something that you have to get rid of, and programmed that into the wearers and owners and operators of this body. And I'm here to try to tell you that this body is not a burden. It is a wonderful opportunity. It has so much potential that you can take flying rainbow lasagna and you can transform this body from its present state into its unlimited state. And then you will definitely not feel that it is burdensome at all, because you will gain your higher faculties. So first of all, if you're watching this video out of order, this is number 9, and I've been doing many webinars this year and many webinars in previous years, please look into the archive, because that will describe to you how to transform your DNA using the flying rainbow lasagna structure, that we're basically going from a donut-shaped or toroidal energy field, just like Earth's magnetosphere up there. This is the surrounding and penetrating your body, and it's made of time, and it's made of abstract consciousness and potential, and transforming this into its higher dimensional state, which is this. And in so doing, we can superimpose, or through superposition, have different versions of the arrangement of the letters of your DNA, and that gives you greater possibilities for variation. You can make new variations. And it's not just like a mutation where if you mutate and then it goes into your sperm or eggs, and then it's a mutation that's passed on to the next generation. This is a mutation within this generation. So that's in reference to the other recordings that I did, talking about the tardigrades, the woolly bears, little tiny microscopic organisms that take their inspiration, they take information from other organisms. They weave in the DNA information from other organisms into their own body in order to have greater resiliency. So this is what I'm talking about. We, in our present format, get to transform using the flying rainbow lasagna, erase out what you don't want in your DNA and write in what you do want in your DNA. So before the flood, antediluvian, pre-flood, sophisticated worldwide culture on Earth that is known as the mythological realm of Atlantis. But Atlantis is described as one continent. It was not just one continent, it was worldwide. And we have remnants, vestigial traces of that culture in our present culture. So a lot of it went through the mystery schools, mystery traditions in ancient Egypt, the ancient Maya, and some of the Far East. So the idea of chi or prana, this is vestigial traces that come to us from the Far East. Right now I want to speak about what came through the Middle East and Egypt. So back. We're doing star travel here. Before death was invented, before our planet was invaded, this was pre-pharaonic Egypt. So before the pharaoh system existed, nobody died. Death was the aberration. Death didn't exist. Everybody ascended. This was like Atlantis. And so the ancient Egyptians have the myth of Set and Isis and Osiris. And Set sounds a lot like Satan and represents the technology using culture that was on Mars at that time. And Set was jealous of Osiris. And so what Set did was dismembered Osiris. And this was the first death. Up until that point, all of the beings that lived on Earth were immortals. These were the gods of ancient Egypt. Got it? And dismembered Osiris, this was the first death, invented death. And Osiris's wife, Isis, was distraught, went around, collected all the body parts, put them together, and wrapped them up like a mummy, the first mummy, and then used sex magic in order to reanimate that mummy. And I'm bringing this up because from that mythological first death and first resurrection, Pharaonic Egypt developed what I would call resurrection technology. These are compensatory modes to do what was done naturally in our wild, undomesticated state, and it had to do with the metamorphosis. So when I'm talking about flying rainbow lasagna, going from this to this, I'm talking about metamorphosis, and this is the change of state that happens in the caterpillar. And now I'm going to draw it for you too. So the ancient Egyptians looked at the process of going, if this is you and you are becoming mummified, I'm now wrapping you up with bandages here, I'm mummifying you, I'm wrapping you up, okay? That process is analogous to the process of insect going into its chrysalis. So in the insect world, it starts off as a little egg, then it becomes a caterpillar, and the caterpillar is a line. Does this sound familiar, everyone who's been in this class? This is the 0th dimension. This is the 1st dimension, and it's a little caterpillar that can only go along on a line. And after it eats enough, you know, and it's stuck to the surface of a leaf, like it can't jump up off of the surface of the leaf. We'll get to there. Yeah, we'll get to that question. After this little animal, insect at that level of its development eats enough physical matter and gets enough energy stored up, just like the electrons inside of the subatomic atom, this guy over here is storing up enough energy and getting excited enough to be able to make that quantum leap. So this little organism over here has to eat enough leaves and whatever in your garden to get enough energy stored up to be able to make that leap. And that leap is done in the chrysalis. This is the pupal form. So the mummy form from ancient Egypt is analogous to the chrysalis form of the insect. And inside of the chrysalis, the insect is completely disarranged. It is turns into goo. It turns into a pile of amino acids. It does not have structure, and it is the organizing cells called the imago. Literally, imago from imagination. These are the non-physical energetic structure that organize that being entity that can then exit as the winged format. And here I'm drawing a very rough butterfly, but you can understand that this butterfly is now 3-dimensional. This is the 3rd dimension because it now can fly height and length and width. And the point is that this caterpillar eats leaves. It eats a very different food source than this butterfly or moth. No one worries about butterflies coming to your garden. The butterflies don't eat what you're trying to eat. Butterflies eat nectar or pollen or something like that. They eat the flower essence at the very center of the flower. It's these guys over here that you're like, oh no, I've got caterpillars eating my garden. So the point that I'm making is that just as insects undergo a metamorphosis, a profound transformation in the structure of their body, and that changes what dimensions they have access to and what they eat and how they behave, so too are humans undergoing a metamorphosis. So this metamorphosis used to be inevitable. It used to be de rigueur. It was the thing that everybody did. This was ancient Atlantis. You came from the source, emanated outward, started down here and went right up the central passageway and went back to the source. And there was, no muss, no fuss. Look, I'm like dusted my hands off. No muss, no fuss, everything is done. That was the way that everything happened. And nobody ever died. That was the realm of the immortals. And then there was the invention of death after we had the invasion, the genetic squashing. Just checking my time here. I have about 20 more minutes. And, when that genetic squashing happened, then it made it so that now there were occupiers of the interstices, those overlords of humanity. And it also made it so that this process of transformation was much more difficult. So now it needed technological augmentation. This is what I'm trying to say. That's why they created what I would call transformative technology. It wasn't just wrapping up the body in linens to make it a mummy. It was also a set of incantations, magical vocal vibrations that were said over the inert corpse. And they also used different forms of technology. There were tuning forks and long rods is the best description that I can use. But these are like forms of technology that were used on the dead person on their corpse in an effort to transform them. So the transformation, it is a change of state. If you die, just like a regular death, your body decomposes. And that means it changes state from a solid, it goes into liquid, it becomes liquefaction, and eventually it is eaten by tiny microorganisms and becomes a gas, and it becomes heat, infrared heat energy, and it is dissipated. And it can take a long time. It can take many, many weeks to decompose, or you can have cremation. You can put your corpse, your physical structure of your body on a big giant funeral pyre and transform it, just getting rid of that techno notification, transform it instantaneously. It's changing state from a solid into a series of superheated gases and going off into the atmosphere. So this is, since death was invented, the change of state has happened not as a form of consciousness, but what's supposed to happen is that our bodies are supposed to be kindled from within. I know someone is going to think spontaneous human combustion. I'm not describing spontaneous human combustion, but it would be something similar to that, that an energy that is a transformative energy takes all of the physical cells of the body from a solid level of density and matter into a less dense level. And when I went through the levels of matter in previous classes, we'll do this really fast. If we've got solid down here, then liquid up from there, then gas up from there, then plasma, that's fire. I'm drawing fire, that's what that is. And then these are all light beams that are disorganized. And if you organize those light waves rather, then you end up getting a beam. That is coherent light. That is like a laser. And I'm getting here with star travel. That is a laser. So I'm now characterizing the very highest level of refinement of energy that we can do with our consciousness and with our physical body is to turn it into coherent light. Light, your light body. This is accreting light. So what we're supposed to be doing during our time having this physical corporeal incarnation is to accrete light. The ancient Egyptians understood this. They believed that everything you were doing during your daily waking existence was preparation for the moment that you would set forth on the journey of death. And you're just like that little caterpillar that is spending its whole existence in the form of a caterpillar, just trying to eat as many leaves as it possibly can. It's like, I need to eat as much leaves as I can and get fat and get big and big and big, because it only has a little window of opportunity to get enough energy to be able to make that leap. Because when you are in the chrysalis, you're not eating, you're not gathering energy. So this is the whole idea of inner transformation, how experts do star travel. We transform and refine our bodies to the point where we don't need an intermediary to ingest light. Right now, in our present existence, we need an intermediary. I'm pointing out my window, a bunch of plants. I have a beautiful garden out there, and those plants all have chloroplasts inside of them, and they all catch photons and turn them into physical matter. It's a magical thing. We're looking at magic. Magic is happening right now outside of my window, even though not enough people recognize the profundity and how amazing it is that that is really going on. But yes, the chloroplasts act as an intermediary, catching photons that would have, if photons aren't acted upon, then they would simply continue on endlessly on their journey. They would just fly through space endlessly. So a very special thing happens when a chloroplast catches a photon and then it turns it into a starch or a sugar. That is something that you or I or another animal can eat, and it makes it possible to support life at this level. But this is not our intended format. We were not intended to have to kill another living organism and grind it up with our mouth parts so that we can be alive. First of all, the whole idea of this burden, karma, I had to kill another organism just so I could feed my organism. That's part of it. And part of it is inefficiency. We are running this body like an inefficient steam engine. You shovel coal in here and it goes, I'm pointing to my belly. That's like the cauldron. That's the furnace where the coal or wood or whatever gets burned up. And then it makes steam power, like kinetic energy for my muscles to move. But that's it's a very 19th century approach to looking at the body that does not involve consciousness. And now we're starting to understand in greater levels of sophistication and also quantum observership, understanding how profound the profound effect, how powerful observership and consciousness is on the physical form. So now we're understanding that all physical food, I don't have food to point to or whatever, but physical food is solidified light and is solidified consciousness. So all of these, I joke and I say, you're like an organic computer. Running new software programs changes the functioning of the hardware. So how do we do all of this? First, it is yoga of perception, yoga of the mind. You got to stretch your mind and believe in new possibilities. How to even believe in the possibility of eating nothing but pure light. I think I've used this analogy in the past too. The first guy that ever ran a marathon, he did it in ancient Greece at a place called Marathon, and no one had ever done that before or in recorded history. He ran 26 miles and then he promptly fell down and died. But what he did was he redefined what is considered possible by the human body. He redefined or stretched the boundary to now include running 26 consecutive miles. And now in Boston and in New York, I mean, people run marathons all the time and they don't drop dead right afterwards. This has become what is considered a normal part of the human toolkit or what is possible with the human body. So let's talk about light eaters. There was one in 1940s in Bavaria. Her name was Therese von Neumann, and she was a mystic and a stigmatic that she spontaneously bled from her hands and her forehead in sympathetic pains with the religious figure of the Christ on Fridays and on Easter. And I'm certainly, I'm talking about the death cult, so I'm clearly not an advocate for that level of personal suffering. One of the interesting things that are about her, though, is that for the last 25 years of her life on Earth, she did not eat physical food. All she would eat every day is one little Eucharist wafer. And she believed so strongly in the power of the biblical literalist Jesus Christ that she believed that that Eucharist wafer had all of the food and vitamins and nutrients that she needed. So what she was, I bring up her religious profound belief because that was the magic that allowed her to transcend what would be considered the limitations that what is programmed in by objective materialism. Objective materialism is its own software program, and it programs you with the expectation that matter is just matter. It's not matter imbued with consciousness that can do magical and amazing things. So flying rainbow lasagna, this is birth of a new dimension. We're giving birth to a new form of matter that is not energy versus matter in constant dualistic opposition, but is now matter imbued with energy or imbued with consciousness. This is matter that responds directly to our thought. So of course, food can respond directly to your thought. If you say, I'm going to take this plain cracker and I'm going to think that it has all of the nutrients and wonderful fats and proteins and carbohydrates that I need to eat every day to sustain me, and then I eat that cracker, then I can be completely sustained on that. So this is what we're beginning to talk about. So let's talk about how we as a collective, and I have about 15 more minutes on this, and then I'll get into all of the questions and comments. So a lot of people, I joke about this, we're under great duress. Things that are going on this planet right now are not very much fun. Even though I'm a very joyous person, I feel dragged down into the mire sometimes too. So a lot of people are like flying saucer, take me away. They're like, Lord Jesus Christ, take me away. Like someone from up there, take me away. And I'm trying to break through that program in order to get the idea that we don't have to escape, that this is not about planetary escape. The planet is very screwed up right now. Oh my goodness. But I'm trying to get across the idea that things improve by participating. So the planetary escape is analogous to saying you have to die, lose your physical body in order to truly be free. But I'm saying you don't have to die and lose your physical body in order to truly be free. The people that programmed you with that expectation programmed you to hate and revile and feel disgusted by your physical body when your physical body is an incredibly valuable and wonderful tool or opportunity that we all have. So this is the amazing, so don't listen to those programmers that said to you, you're dirty, ugly, poopy, greasy, and gross, and that you'll be much better off when you just die, and then you'll be free of that, monstrosity of a body. That's not what it's supposed to be about at all. And this is also analogous to the objective materialist view of Earth, that Earth is just a dead rock floating through space with a bunch of resources that you can mine off of it. Earth is a living being. Earth is alive and has motivations and desires and potential, and Earth is also a project, like a song, a band, a song project, or a collective mural that is created by our local star. And same thing with all of the beautiful planets that are in our solar system. These are all consciousness experiments, like gardens that are being cultivated by our star. So how do experts do star travel? First of all, what we do is we cultivate our consciousness and refine our consciousness until we are in alignment with those aspects of personality, those characteristics that are our true selves. When we do that, we become what would technically be defined or described as an ascended master. So I'm not part of this new age world. It seems like there's a lot of distortions. That's why I have to make a distinction. So I'm not ascribing to many of the teachings about ascended masters, because it seems like a lot of them say that the ascended masters are somehow, they've graduated from the class, but they're still coming back to the class and wanting to channel and speak through the moving of the mouth parts of people down here. And that doesn't make sense to me, because once you graduate and you get to go on the stellar network and fly around being part of these wonderful musical collaborations. You don't have to go back into school and try to talk to the other students. And you definitely don't have a desire to play through the instruments of the people that are still in that band at that level of reality. So that's why I'm making that distinction. That sounds like a distortion to me. However, each one of us has, as part of the map of our lives, the potential to be an ascended master, the path of least likelihood. When this is what I said in ancient Atlantis, the sophisticated antediluvian worldwide culture, this was de rigueur. That meant it always happened. Everybody did this. Everybody became an ascended master. Here in this time and place, it's like, oh, an ascended master, that's only for special people. No, this is your birthright. This is like saying you successfully completed your term paper, you handed in your essay to the professor, and the professor's like, yes, check plus, you did your work. That's me. When you get back to the source, that's like saying check plus, you handed in your work. And all of those iterations are us editing. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to edit. So when you finalize and complete the term paper of your life, you then have the correct set of characteristics to be able to make it through that tiny little wormhole. And that wormhole is in the sun. There's a singularity in the sun. There's a singularity inside of every star. There's a singularity inside of the planet. There's a singularity inside of every cell, all of our nuclei. The DNA is your connection to the singularity, and at the center of all of your molecules in your atoms. All of your atoms have a nucleus that is also a connection to the singularity. These are not different singularities. They're all the same convergence point. It's all the same place. Many different individual apertures or doors or windows or crawlways that all go into the same place. So what we do is stop identifying with our temporal ego. Your temporal ego, that's all of this periphery stuff. That's not who you really are. Let's call that the fat. And let's make a little drawing. Not that I don't like fat people. I love fat people and I love fat. But let's just draw this in terms of very simplistic whatever. Let's say this is the core person of who you really are. This is the core person of who you really are. So for the technology users, the beings that are extraterrestrials that use technology as a compensatory mode, they are all this yellow. That's like their fat. And then let's say, here I'm going to draw, this is the tiny little wormhole to get out of reality. Here's the tiny little wormhole to get out of reality. So this technology user actually identifies with all of this fat, actually identifies with this as their self. That's temporal ego. And it's also the accumulated pain of the experience. So these are the beings, these beings over here that emanated themselves, but from the source, but not on a bridge of love. And they've been experiencing suffering and pain and torment the whole time. And that's what all of this yellow fatty deposit is or are. It's all trauma. It's all accumulated trauma. This is ego. This is the temporal sense of self. It's the narrative story of all the things that happened to you when you were in time, as opposed to this central core value system, that who you are, those personality characteristics that you are beyond time. So you can see this person over here, if they are this wide, there is no way that they can fit through a little tiny aperture that is only this wide. But if we look at this person over here, we can see that they are exactly the right size to be able to fit through this little wormhole, because what they have done is they got rid of all of the stuff that wasn't the true them. They were peripheral characteristics, not core characteristics of who you really are. And the way, when I say get rid of, it's not get rid of like, we're not like chopping it off with an axe or something like that. It means not feeding with your attention, not feeding with your energy, not identifying as you, that that's not you, and that it is necessary to go through that level of refinement to get on the stellar network. So you refine your sense of self to not identify, to let's say identify beyond the level of merely your physical ego, and then you go through that portal. And when you go through that portal, it is just like, I'll draw an image here, because this is, you don't lose your individuality. So this is coherent light. If this is like a pool, and the pool is, and let's draw you. This is your anthropomorphic form, you know, with 2 arms and 2 legs. This is very rough. But what I'm trying to draw, these are all of your coherent light. And this is your coherent light body. These are your waves of light that are all in your body. And if we submerge that body that is made out of coherent light in this larger structure that is also made of coherent light, what you're finding is that there's literally no difference. There is no distinction. There is no, you are a being of condensed coherent light in an environment of condensed and coherent light. And coherent light, this is laser light where all of the peaks and all of the troughs match. I'm trying to draw this very carefully so that it looks like all of the peaks and troughs match. I don't think I'm doing a very good job, but you can imagine that I've filled in that whole entire thing. So this is what it's like when you go into the sun. This is the advanced jazz band. You are this, let me get a different color here. You are this individual. You're not losing your individuality. You have gone through great, you know, challenges in order to be able to gain your individuality. That means you learned your songs. I learned all these different songs. I learned them by practicing them and embodying them and being them and playing them over and over. That's all of the good stuff that you get to take with you. And that includes things like, oh, I tasted what fried chicken tasted like, or I felt what it was like to run on a beach, or, you know, any of the things, the experiences that you had here in the physical realm. You don't get rid of those things. You don't become a vanilla, you know, Borg person. But what you do, what does happen rather, is that you are submerged within this entire system or network of coherent light. And that's what I talk about, that this is like a symphony of life and a symphony of different types of waves. It could be sound waves or light waves. When we make those waves harmonic, like this one and this one and this one, all sound good together because all of the waves fit together properly. So this is like saying you cultivate your own music to be good enough to pass the audition to get into the band. That is how experts do star travel. If you're not an expert and you try to do going through the stellar network and you haven't cultivated yourself to identify fully with the non-temporal ego parts of yourself, what happens is you're identifying with the periphery and the periphery gets burned away. That's why those beings that occupy the interstices, they identify with their fat. The beings that occupy the interstices, and they've been stuck there for a long time and they've been farming humanity, and these are like, you know, the overlords, the archons, or whatever vocabulary word we'd like to talk about them, that those beings identify with their accumulated wealth. Their wealth is accumulated pain. They're the fatty deposits blocking up the arteries. These are the veins and arteries of the giant time body that we are within. Those beings identify with their pain. They're literally saying, like, something bad happened to me 3,000 years ago, and I'm holding on to that pain as defining characteristic of who I am. And I hope that you and I and people that are in this room, people that are checking out this video, I mean, I've definitely had the experience of transcending trauma, that something bad happened to me a long time ago, but I don't hold on to that as the defining personality characteristic of who I am, that I've learned to transcend that and define myself based upon other things that I do, like positive things, like, oh, I'm the person that painted these paintings, or I'm the person that is playing or singing this music. That we can choose to identify with the characteristics and behaviors and experiences that are the true self, that it's not that we are identifying with all of the negativity or negative experiences or trauma or the distortions. Those fatty deposits, those are distortions, and they are literally undigested emotional experiences. So trauma, if you are able to resolve it and digest it, does not have to be an impediment or something that holds you back from being able to get on that stellar network and fly to the next place. So this is the final thing. So just like the little egg becomes a caterpillar, eats enough, gets into the chrysalis, and then it transforms and comes out of the chrysalis and becomes the adult winged form. That is what we are meant to do in time. So this also goes back to the ancient Egyptians. Just to give you an idea of where these vocabulary words come from, Merkaba, that means light body vessel. And this is what ancient Egyptian mystery school tradition coming to us in the modern world, so that we can have like some clues and some hints about what to do this. Ka and Ba, these are the two of the words that the ancient Egyptians used to describe the aspects of personality that are not corporeal and that are tied to the mummy, but not part of the mummy, and that they are free. This is what it means, gaining an additional degree of freedom, so that you can fly through time, so that you can experience time in a new way. This is what the adult winged format means. You're not stuck to the surface of the leaf, where you have to crawl across the entire leaf in order to get to your destination. You're a butterfly that can fly around. It can fly here, can fly here, can fly here, can go wherever it wants to go. So when we undergo this transformation, first of all, there's no going back. You're not like, I'm a butterfly and I'm going to go back to eating leaves. You don't do that. So when we as humans make this transformation, we're not going to go back to eating physical food. Eat all of your fried chicken now and remember it. That is what I did. I use this example because my friends back in Woodstock, they're really good cooks. These are foodies. And I went to their holiday party and they made wonderful fried chicken. It was soaked in buttermilk. It had just the right spices. They fried it in lard. And it was just the most divine. And it wasn't just the fried chicken. It was that beautiful friends had made it. It was at a nice party, and the whole experience of eating it. When I say I don't usually eat fried chicken, I usually eat things that are healthier. When I was eating it, I said, I am creating a mental recording of the sensation of this experience so that I can draw upon that and even project it and share it with others as a memory of being here. This is what I talk about when I say my collective of star travelers, and we travel from star system to star system. What motivates us? Well, the great composer motivates us, telling us where to go and what to do when we get there. And we are gathering experiences. So I hope you don't think of me like some kind of a carpetbagger that is here to take from the planet. What I'm taking from the planet is the experience of being here, the experience of eating chicken. So this is the next thing, what we take with us. We don't take with us the physical stuff that we have. I joke, you don't pack your food into toothpaste tubes and like pack your suitcases and bring it with you. We take with us the essence of the experience that we have had here. So you don't take with you your accumulated trauma. If someone pushed you down the playground in 3rd grade and you skinned your knee, you're not going to take that accumulated emotional trauma with you, but you might take with you, the feeling of having milk and cookies, whatever are the core experiences. So this is what I'm trying to say. What are the things that really define who we are? What are the experiences that are worth taking with us? And all of this is a journey of consciousness. I mean, I hope that I've made this very, very clear, that this is not a physical journey. Like you get into, I'm pointing out the window there to my car. In my driveway, I have my physical car that's made of metal. If I want to drive to the physical grocery store, I get in my physical car, drive my physical body there. This is not that type of a journey. That is objective materialism. This is a different type of a journey. That is a journey of consciousness. So you do not simply have to make this journey alone, like one lone hawk flying across the sky. So this is why I talk about my collective of consciousness, because we are like a body. And just like in my physical body, there's cell specialization. My tooth cell performs a different action than my heart cell, and they have different qualities. Clearly, my heart cells are not hard and crunchy like my teeth cells. In the consciousness collective of these beautiful musicians that are going from star system to star system, we each have different specialties, specializations, or unique qualities. That's why I say it's not like joining the Borg. It's not like you will get rid of all of your individuality and have to conform. Resistance is futile, you must conform, like some kind of lockstep experience. It's not like that at all. That really what is happening is each one of us is gathering together all of the food and emotional experiences and behavioral experiences that will help to fuel our journey going to the next experience. So my collective came from a different experience and came here to this world, and now I'm having this experience here in this world. And so then the idea is that we can move from this world to the next place that we're going, but we don't do that by dying. When I say go to the next world, that is what it means in euphemism in human culture. You go to the next world, you die. You don't have to die to go to the next world. You can fly in rainbow lasagna. You can fly through the sun. And when you fly through the sun, you take a sun bath. And what the sun bath does is washes away all of the parts of you that are not eternal. There are parts of you that are eternal. And if you were to pack your bags to fly to eternity, that's what you would take with you. But it's very skinny. It's like, this is the part of you that is really eternal. And all of the rest of the stuff that people tend to identify with is really baggage. That's not the eternal part of who you are. So I'm just checking to make sure. I have to finish the recording and then I'll open the floor and do check out the chat and do more discussion and everything like that. But what I'm trying to characterize and finish up the recording here, experts do star travel by cultivating their natural form. You don't need anything other than your birthday suit, and you don't have to do it alone. That's the idea. Because I know right now on human culture, a lot of it is like individualism is better than the distortions that come from participating in a distorted society. But we're in a band. This collective that I'm a part of is a band, and I don't resent being in the band at all. I'm not like, oh, none of you guys can play, and you don't play the songs I want to play. Everybody in the band can play. Everybody supports one another. The tooth structure supports the heart muscle structure. So it is a very good organism to be a part of. And I mean, I'm also, for anybody who is skeptical, I applaud your skepticism. Be skeptical. If a bunch of UFOs arrive in the sky, be cautious about who you jump on board. So if someone's like, I didn't know, Aurora, if I really want to jump on board, that's good. Shop around, make sure that you're doing the right thing. But I will tell you that my value system is unconditional love and freedom. That's why am I here on Earth? And I think that everybody who is learning about me at this point understands those are my values, that I am here for full freedom of artistic expression. I'm not here in order to be a guru, gather followers, or have people create some kind of adoration. That it is more a sense of sharing a tool, collaborating, working together, and that everybody needs freedom. I saw what was happening here on this planet and I said, this is not fair, this is not cool, and that you don't just wave your magic wand from outside of the situation and try to make it better. You make it better by getting into the situation and making it, improving it from the first person. That is flying rainbow lasagna. I came into this body and transformed it, and am still in the process of transforming it through the flying rainbow lasagna. We accrete light. That means we gather together light. This is what we're doing as little caterpillars. And when we have enough light accreted in us, we can make this transformation. And guess what? It's time. It's time for this transformation. So this is not something, I call it birth of a new dimension. It's not like it's going to happen next year or in 5 years or in 13 billion years. It's happening right now. It is a consciousness journey. It is a transformation of your body. You don't have to die in order to change state and go into this higher dimensional, less dense realm. It does require running a different set of ideas in your mind, a different software program, even though you're not a transhumanist computer. So it is changing your mental approach, changing your consciousness approach, refining your body. I want to say your physical body, but refining all layers of your body until you are just that essential core persona that can get through that tiny little aperture, that tiny little wormhole. And I'll also say it's analogous to that movie Contact from Jodie Foster, where at first they think that what they're doing is building plans for a collaborative spaceship. They think they're going to get, vaulted into space. They think, like slingshot into space. They don't understand. The humans in that movie do not understand that what they have received are blueprints to join a network of consciousness. This is the stellar network. We are all invited to join this network of consciousness and travel the way that experts do star travel, not in a clank metal spaceship, but with our beautiful physical bodies working together. That's part of why I share my artwork with people, why I share my ideas with people, why I don't keep Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a proprietary secret. I want everyone to know about Flying Rainbow Lasagna and practice it and make beautiful music, because we need cell specialization. We need both piccolos and kettle drums in the band. We need everything in order to make this happen. And it's not just, we are individual cells. It's not just individual cells making this journey. It's also the planet herself. And it's not just the planet herself. It is in conjunction with the sun, Sol, and all of the stars that are on the stellar network. So now we're beginning to understand that this is true extraterrestrial life. And when I say that we used to have a sophisticated antediluvian culture that was connected to the rest of the cosmos, this is what I mean, that our consciousnesses came from and were intimately connected to the stellar network, and we never left the stellar network, and we lived in physicality while we were still on the stellar network, and then we returned to that. And the idea of being stuck in a whirlpool and having to endlessly go through all of these iterations and being trapped here is totally aberrant and not the original intended format for the experience. So I've reached the limit of my recording time, but not the end of this topic. So let me just complete the recording, and then I'll open the floor to all the questions. Thank you.